No worries. I'm glad you and Nick are catching up. That's good. Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to the quarterly board meeting of the Tennessee Board of Regents, and we are very grateful for the warm welcome from Dr. Tidings and this incredibly talented team at Chattanooga State. Everything's off to a great start. We've had some excellent tours of the Wacker Institute, the Health Sciences Building, the Volkswagen Academy, and not to mention that there are how many events going on? Did you just tell me today on campus? 5 or 6? It's a busy place, Austin.
We are extremely busy today.
Yep. College fairs, Latin Fest, Board of Regents meeting.
Yes, ma'am. We have our, the mic working? Can everybody hear me? Okay. We do have we have a college fair going on. We have a speaker on campus. We have Senator Todd Gardenhire here. We have our Latin festival going on. And it's just a very, very busy day.
That's great. This is a vibrant, exciting place, and we are proud to be part of it this afternoon, so thank you all. I want to begin by introducing our new faculty regent. The board had the privilege of meeting Alex Fitzner at our committee meetings here a couple of weeks ago, but I don't think we've had a formal introduction of you to everyone yet. Alex teaches English. He is an associate professor at Pellissippi State. He has been in our system since about 2007.
More or less.
Okay, and is the current faculty senate president at Pellissippi State. Talk to us about your work and your passion for classroom instruction.
I love Pellissippi State mainly because it is a teaching institution, and that's where my real passion and focus is. And I enjoy very much the process of discovery that students have to they go through when encountering difficult texts and occasionally difficult people like me.
Oh, not at all. Sure. Not at all. Georgia native?
I am from Rome, Georgia, most recently, but now Tennessee is home.
Excellent, and we're proud of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I will add that Alex, with his passion for English, he loves everything from the short stories of Flannery O'Connor to John Milton's Paradise Lost. That's a big variety.
I like to keep things difficult and keep the students challenged, especially in terms of the texts that sort of form our world.
That's great. Alex jumped in feet first as our new faculty regent at our committee meetings, and I know you will today again. So welcome and thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I also want to mention that one of Chattanooga's best and brightest has returned for at least one more meeting as our student regent, and that's Nick Russell, who I think is out in the audience. We are awaiting an appointment of a new student regent, but until that occurs, Nick will hold over in the position, and as I mentioned, Chattanooga is home for him. He is studying at Tennessee Tech, and we expect great things of Nick in the year to come. So welcome back, and we always value your thoughts as well. Today, we also have 4 representatives of Chattanooga State and the TCAT here at Chattanooga joining us on this stage to be part of our committee meetings. And I'm proud to welcome Dr. Martina Harris, who heads the nursing program here. She is a graduate of Middle Tennessee State University. She went on to Vanderbilt. She has her doctorate from another great Board of Regents school, Tennessee State University in Nashville. I believe you've been here since about 2013. Excellent, excellent. And I'm proud to report that you have just finished your year as a Maxine Smith Fellow. So, yes. She's joined by a number of her colleagues who have gone through that really important program together over the course of the last year. And I learned last night over dinner, as we honored the Maxine Smith Fellows, that Dr. Harris was known as the mother of the group. And when you missed a meeting, apparently there was a void. Okay.
Yes, being a mother of 3 and they're all gone to college now, I look to them, so they let me be the mother.
Oh, very good.
They filled my empty nest, so now I have to find
very
something else
good.
to do. Yes.
Tell us more about yourself, Dr. Harris.
I am a native of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I came to Chattanooga State from UTC as a faculty. I was there for 10 years. Like you said, I went to MTSU, Vanderbilt, but now I'm happy to be here and bring my talents, and I love Chattanooga State, and I'm excited about the things that we have going on here.
That's great. Thank you for your enthusiasm.
Yes.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
So, and Austin Adderholt, we have called on our current SGA president.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about yourself, because you have many interests.
All right. Well, I am actually not a Tennessee resident. I was born and raised in Ringgold, Georgia, right over the borderline. I graduated from Lakeview Food Oglethorpe High School. I was a band kid. I was in marching band, symphonic band, jazz band, pep band, concert band, all the bands we had. I was a drama kid. I've been in 7 plays and a musical. I've also been involved in TISL. Last year I went and I served as a social media team member in the media department of TISL. And then I actually won an award for social media last year. I have applied to be one of the directors for the TISL.
Tell us what TISL is.
The Tennessee Intercollegiate Student Legislature.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So I've applied to be a media director. And then here on campus, I am a mass communications major. I plan on transferring to MTSU next year to pursue my bachelor's in multimedia journalism. And I'm the student government president, so
That's
a little bit
great.
of everything.
You live that old adage of if you want to get something done, ask a busy person, right?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Thank
Yes,
you,
ma'am.
Austin.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for making time to be with us. Very impressive. And in our red coats, representing the best of Skills USA, and we'll hear more about that momentarily, Michael Mercer, who is a senior instructor here in Computer Support Technician Program. Tell us about yourself.
Yes. I taught high school for 11 years, and then I've been here for 7 years, so I've been teaching for 18 years. And I teach the Computer Support Technician Program. I'm also one of the Skills USA lead advisors, so we're very busy with skills. Chattanooga does really well every year, and we're hoping to keep that standard up every year.
Excellent.
And we are leaving tomorrow for Washington, D.C. Sarah and I and a couple of other students and one more advisor, we're going to the the Washington Leadership Training Institute for skills. It's the national leadership training, and that's tomorrow. So we've been very busy as well here.
You have.
But yeah, I'm from Knoxville. I went to the University of Tennessee. I love Tennessee, and I love sports. And I'm really passionate about the college here and teaching the technical skills, and that's what I can't wait to go to Washington. We're going to meet with Senator Corker and Senator Alexander and some of them just to advocate for Skills USA and technical education, and I cannot wait to go do that because I'm just so passionate about the hands-on learning we have here and the students that we have here.
Excellent.
Yep.
Thank you. You'll
Thank
do a
you.
great job.
Thank
You're a
you.
great representative.
Thank
and
you.
We're honored to have you. And Sarah, your story is an interesting one. You have your bachelor's degree in chemistry. You, in fact, were a chemist in various manufacturing industries. And you decided, though, to come back to the TCAT here at Chattanooga. And you're a Tennessee Reconnect recipient, I guess, studying industrial electricity. Do I have that right?
I just completed the industrial electricity program, and now I'm in the industrial maintenance mechatronics program.
Wow. And tell us why the departure from one career to another?
Well, when I picked chemistry as my major when I was 18, I just chose it because I liked chemistry in high school. I didn't really have that much of a passion for it, but I didn't know what else to do. And 5 years later, I had a bachelor's degree and went into the field, and 10 years later, still didn't care that much for it. And I had a really stressful job working in the fragrance industry. It's really competitive, and what we made was kind of unimportant. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but it literally goes in the trash. Those pages you pop open in the magazines with the perfume, I formulated those. And it was a lot of stress for something that just didn't matter, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So when I saw that the Reconnect was available to send you back to school for free, I thought this was a good opportunity to change things and just do something that I liked more. And I like working with my hands, I love fixing things, and the industrial electricity program really appealed to me. Also, electricians make really good money.
Excellent.
And
Excellent.
it was so much fun that I decided to do another program and do the mechatronics because I love the troubleshooting and fixing things, and I wanted to go into the maintenance field instead of the construction field. And I thought the maintenance program would help me learn the mechanical side of things and be a more well-rounded employee.
That's great. Excellent story. Thank you for sharing it with us. She also happens to be the captain of the gold medal winning Quiz Bowl team at Skills USA. So that's big.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting to win that.
That's very exciting. Well done. Well done. So folks, some of what we will talk about today may seem like watching paint dry. Um, But because we are involved in policy and lots of specifics for the Board of Regents. And as I mentioned, we've had some other committee meetings where a lot of work has already been done. But I want to encourage you, if you have questions or thoughts you want to share, because your experiences are so deep and vast, we'd love to hear from you. So don't hesitate to chime in at any point throughout our afternoon meetings. We're just pleased to have you here. I also want to briefly recognize two folks. One who is a longtime employee of the Board of Regents, but who has just been promoted to be director of our TCAT at Jacksboro, and that's Debbie Petrie. I saw you at a distance earlier. There she is. Congratulations again. And Dr. Tony Mixa, who has joined us as the new president at Walters State Community College. Welcome. So glad you're here. This afternoon, we will turn to our committee work. We begin with workforce development. We will move to academic policies and programs, on to personnel, and finally conclude with finance and business operations. So with that, Regent Varlin, I think you have your committee assembled. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice Chair, and welcome everybody to the Workforce Development Committee. Madam Secretary, would you like to call the roll?
Regent Apple,
Present.
Regent Fitzner,
Present.
Regent Griscom, Regent Markham, Regent Prescott,
Here.
Regent Smith, Regent Varlin.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Our agenda for today, we're going to be talking about community college graduates and some of the placement rates and first-time licensure pass rates. We're also going to be reviewing the proposed program terminations, modifications, and the new technical program implementations. And then we'll, of course, hear about the highlights from the Skills USA National Awards. So I'd like to call on, first of all, Vice Chancellor Warren Nichols to give the report on the community college graduates, please. Good morning.
Sorry.
The TCAT Skills Panel is probably going to be looking forward to that. It'd be tremendously stimulating. But hopefully this you'll find of interest as well. What I wanted to do, this is the second time that we've done this. We presented a similar report to you last year about this time, about what happens to the community college two-year degree, AAS degree students when they graduate from one of our community colleges. And thought you might find this, hopefully you'll find this of interest. What we have done is, as we did last year, we're pulling the information directly from the Tennessee Higher Education Commission fact book. So what you're seeing is that over this 2014-2015 year, in total, we had 4,821 students who graduated with a two-year AAS, Associate of Applied Science degree in workforce. Of that 4,821, you will see that 4,483 of those graduates from our two-year degree programs were placed in their field, and that's important. It's not that they graduated from a community college in advanced manufacturing or mechatronics and then went to work at a Burger King. These were students who actually found jobs in their field. And of that, if you look then at the percentage, that's a overall of a 93% of our graduates found employment within the field of study. When you take that to the next level, we then looked at that, okay, is that just a blip on the screen, or is that something that has some history behind it? So this slide actually shows a 10-year history of the same level of graduates. Again, these are pulled from Tennessee Higher Education Commission records. And this is for the last 10 years, showing that, again, these are students who completed a 2-year degree from one of our community colleges, placed in their field, and over the last 10 years, you see an overall average of 92%. Taking that a little bit more detail, one of the things that happens is that we are credited, we are funded based upon our funding formula, not only on the number of students, but the outcomes. How well did our students perform? One of the things that I know many of us were very apprehensive about when the 2010 community funding went into effect about the outcomes-based funding. Would that mean that we would be watering down our curriculum? Would it mean that we would be engaging in a grade inflation or those type of things? I think these factors and the ones I just showed you, employers would not consistently hire our students if we were watering down curriculum, if we were involved in something less than stellar performance. If you look at these numbers, these are the numbers of our students who were required to take some type of national licensure in order to go into their chosen profession. If you look at this, you will see that for the 2014 year, first time pass rate of our students on licensure exams was 96.9%. For this 2015 year, you will see that it's I'm sorry, that's not the average. I was just looking at the Walter State of the 96.9. But you can look through all of those and see that our colleges and, more importantly, our students have performed very, very well historically and year to year on first-time pass rates on these exams. Breaking that down even further, and this is in your notebooks, we show the data for various programs that require some type of a licensing exam for every one of our colleges. And you can see that in almost every area, you're looking at somewhere between the high 80s to the 90% of our students passing their exam on the first pass rate. There's no action, Madam Chair, to take on this other than just wanted you to be aware that our community colleges and our faculty are holding our students to a high level of achievement and accountability, and that our colleges are truly preparing these students for the workforce. So certainly we'll entertain any questions, but that would be the end of my report.
Are there any questions? Warren, now this is a subset of the total number of students that are in this AAS program across the state. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. Regent Varlin, these are only the students who have completed the 2-year degree program and graduated.
Okay.
It does not include the students that are currently involved in our programs that may still be working their way through them.
Okay. And this is for this past year?
The numbers that I showed you today are reflective of this of the 2014-2015 year.
2015, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
That's what okay. Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I'm going to call on Vice Chancellor James King to present the proposed terminations, modifications, and new technical programs for the TCATs, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Board, Chancellor Gregory. As you know, our primary mission in the TCAT system is workforce development. We focus every day on that mission by training our students to be excellent employees and strengthen the economic development of our communities. This mission requires us to be in constant communication with industry in our area and move quickly to address their needs. These 4 program proposals presented to you today show our quick response to the needs of students, businesses, and industries. The proposals are as follows. First is the implementation of an industrial maintenance mechatronics program at TCAT Livingston to be located at the Cookeville Higher Education Center. Next is the implementation of a practical nursing program at TCAT Livingston to also be located at the Cookeville Higher Education Center, and implementation of a welding technology program at TCAT Livingston to be located at the Cookeville Higher Education Center. The TCATs are excited to be part of this exciting adventure, the Cookeville Higher Education Center, and looking forward to working in conjunction with TTU and Ball State in developing an outstanding center partnership between three institutions in our system. The last implementation is a welding program at TCAT McKenzie to be located at the Adult Education Building in Dresden, Tennessee. Chairman Varlin, these program proposals allow the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology to be more responsive to the needs of students, businesses, and industry. We respectfully request the board's approval, and I'm available to answer any questions.
If I can have a motion to accept these proposals? Okay. Second by Parker. I think the initial was by Chairman Griscom, Regent Griscom. All right. Are there any comments or questions? All right. Call for a vote. Is this just a voice vote? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. All right. The motion passes. And last, Dr.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay.
You want to move on to the next agenda item? You know, this next agenda item is always one of my favorite agenda items at any board meeting at any time of the year because we get to introduce you to the good things that are going on across the state in our Skills USA program. Before I get into this, I want to applaud Shelley Travis, our state director, and outstanding advisors like Mike Mercer and the folks in here for doing a great job. So let's give them a round of applause. You know, we're going to add a little different twist to this one today. As you'll see, we have an outstanding industry leader with us today that is a strong supporter of this organization that's going to give you a little insight of why industry supports this organization like it does. But before that, I've got a few things at your station. You've got an annual report that highlights the Tennessee, but also things in the nation. And there's one or two things I want to point out. If you look on the very front cover, you see right in the center one of our outstanding students as a national officer. But what's more important is you're going to see a group of 19 individuals, the World Skills Team. Now, what makes that so important, folks, is to think about this. These are 19 individuals that represented the United States in Sao Paulo, Brazil. They call it at the Skill Olympics type thing. Now, what makes that so unique is of the 19 students, 5 are TCAT students. 5 are TCAT students out of the entire nation. So we're doing a great job in Tennessee, or we wouldn't have this much representation at a world skills level. Other states are envious, and I can tell you that. So also at your station, you have our state pen. And I think this pen was selected as a silver medalist out of 52 pens at the national competition. A young man from Crump, Tennessee, my home school, designed this. And you've noticed it's got the raccoon and the state on it, a little dangly, and it was a popular pen. Students swap pens at this contest, and it's such a big deal, and it was fun. And you've got a copy of the skills framework. And this framework has an impact on the lives, skills has an impact on the lives of America's future workforce through the development of personal, workplace, and technical skills that are all grounded in academics. And you have a pen at your station, Skills USA pen, to go with that. But prior to me introducing the speaker, I'd like to show you just a brief, I think it's, Shelley said it's 42 seconds long, not 42 minutes. I'd be run off of here by then. But 42 seconds long to discuss the skills framework. Let's hear that.
Skills USA is a national organization serving more than 300,000 students annually through nearly 4,000 local chapters. An integral part of career and technical education, the Skills USA framework provides students with personal, workplace, and technical skills while building confidence and grit. With 100,000 members graduating annually who are job ready day one, Skills USA is the solution to shrinking our national skills gap. Join us in empowering students to become world-class workers, leaders, and responsible American citizens. We are Skills USA, champions at work.
Okay, Chancellor Gregory, I expect to see you having your skills pin on. You know, folks, Regent Varlin and I had a conversation prior to this meeting, and we wanted to introduce you to what business and industry thinks about this organization. Why industries contribute up near $500,000 a year to support this organization. They would not be doing that if they didn't feel like there was value, to this organization. And so we have one of those great industry leaders with us. As a matter of fact, his boss, Nick Pinchuk, is quoted in the annual report. So, Tom, you've got to follow this lead here. And I'm doing Tom a big favor today because I'm letting him go before the students, because it's never good to follow these students. I mean, it's really tough. John Morgan used to say the last thing you ever wanted to do was follow a student, because there's nowhere you could go but down from there. So with us today is Dr. Tom Murray. He's Director of Marketing, Snap-on Industrial in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Tom has logged 28 years of experience in brand management, marketing, business development, and advertising and market research. For the past 5 years, Tom has been a Director of Marketing at Snap-on Industrial in Kenosha, directing marketing, business development, and sales support programs for critical industries and Snap-on technical educational initiatives. Thought it was interesting. I'd love to sit down and have a conversation with Tom, because he has a doctorate in American presidential politics. So I was just saying, so this is an interesting year to talk to a guy like Tom of what he has to say. But Tom lives a native of Cleveland, Ohio, lives in Woodstock, Illinois with his wife Susan, and they have 4 great kids. So let's please welcome Dr. Tom Murray.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd be remiss if I didn't begin by complimenting the lovely floral arrangements here. They're terrific. Were they grown on the site of the TCAT? Chattanooga? I don't know. I'd ask for one for an honorarium, but I don't know how I'd get it into the overhead for my flight home, and I wouldn't want to gate check anything that's quite like that. So thank you very much, Dr. King. Thank you for the kind introduction. Indeed, I'm pleased to be here in Chattanooga today. It's a great honor for Snap-on to stand alongside 2 institutions, TCAT and Skills USA, that are doing so much, not only to address but to lead nationally and to serve the nation's youth by teaching skills and providing the experiences. And I think that's going to be a key touchstone for me in my remarks here, the experiences that shape the skilled and ready American workforce of tomorrow. To the ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Regents, to Dr. King, Shelley Travis, Ms. Molly Martin of Skills USA, who will thankfully follow me, and all of Snap-on's longtime partners from Skills USA, Michael and Sarah. I extend greetings from Mr. Nick Pinchuk, our chairman at Snap-on, and Snap-on Industrial's president, Mr. Andy Ginger, who is my immediate boss and who is unquestionably devoted to the furtherance of technical education in the United States and Snap-on's involvement in it. And I know that Nick Pinchuk would insist upon my extending special recognition and renewed congratulations to all the TCAT students who are here today. I think they're right here behind me. Those who won medals, provided great accomplishments, received other recognition, at this year's Skills USA National Leadership and Skills Conference back in June in Louisville. Congratulations, medalists and achievers. Congratulations from Snap-on. And I'd also point out that Snap-on's pleased to congratulate Mr. Jeremy Ballantyne of the great state of Tennessee, a National Skills USA officer from Pulaski. He's now working at Skills USA in Leesburg, Virginia, at the organizational headquarters there up near DC. Great to see TCAT graduates and natives of Tennessee succeeding. And finally, I also extend Snap-on's congratulations and best wishes for a strong continuing partnership between TCAT and Skills USA, and I bring assurances that Snap-on looks forward to many years of continued partnership with TCAT and Skills USA in the state of Tennessee. It's an honor to stand beside both of your organizations in service of the 11,000 students from each of the TCAT schools in the volunteer state who are Skills USA members. You know, a trained and ready technical workforce is critical to the health of the American economy and to the health of American society as a whole. Snap-on knows and deeply believes this. Think for a minute about my company, Snap-on. We're an American company. We're headquartered in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We manufacture tools in the USA for use by American workers. Without a strong and steady supply of trained and ready American workers, Snap-on is, well, Snap-on's in a world of trouble. You see, my company depends on skilled and ready American workers not only to use its tools, but to make them here in America as well. We make torque wrenches in City of Industry, California. We make hand tools in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and Elkmont, Alabama, and power tools in Murphy, North Carolina. And Snap-on depends upon skilled and ready workers to make ratchets and wrenches and pry bars at Elizabethton, Tennessee, where TCAT Elizabethton is a key partner in training those workers, and TCAT students involved in Skills USA develop the leadership and the workplace talents that make the Elizabethtown plant profitable for Snap-on and a place where careers are built and lives are provided for. Recall the Skills USA framework that James reviewed with you a moment ago. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the key reason that Snap-on commits itself to Skills USA, and Snap-on is so pleased to see TCAT and the schools from across the state of Tennessee involved with Skills USA as well. It's about the hands and the training that students receive in your fine institutions, but it's also about the experiences they get in their heads and in their hearts, working with each other, working across the school, reaching across their communities, that experience, that thrust into leadership roles that we commend today. You can probably tell that Snap-on's enthusiasm and my enthusiasm for its partnerships with TCAT and Skills USA is sincere, and it's very productive too. The partnership between TCAT and Snap-on, of which I speak today, dates to the spring of 2014. It was then that TCAT joined NC3, that's the National Coalition of Certification Centers, and began training its instructors in the use of Snap-on tools and equipment as an enhancement to the very fine TCAT technical training and studies they receive. TCAT Chattanooga and TCAT Elizabethton went live with their Snap-on tool certification program shortly thereafter. And all TCAT campuses soon began receiving Snap-on tools and equipment and began training their students in their use in the fall of 2014. Today, TCAT is in the top 3 systems in the country in delivering Snap-on tool usage certifications across areas like auto and heavy-duty vehicle diagnostics, torque, multimeters, brake and wheel alignment equipment, and the safe usage of tools when you're using them at elevated heights. TCAT is a benchmark model for state implementation of NC3 technical certifications, and TCAT Elizabethton campus serves as a site for the training of certification instructors from across the nation. To date, TCAT has issued over 3,500 certifications in partnership with Snap-on and Truly. We are just getting started together. Now, it's one thing, and it's a very big and important thing, to earn a technical degree or certificate from TCAT. And Snap-on salute Dr. King's vision of excellence in facilities, curriculum, instruction, and positive student outcomes. But my chairman, Nick Pinchuk, is quick to point out, whether he's talking to political, academic, industry, and student audiences alike, that the American worker today is in a worldwide competition for preeminence. To dominate that competition, American students need to be trained up and use all of their personal assets, their hands, their heads, and their hearts. And this is where Snap-on believes Skills USA makes such an important contribution to the development and rounding out, the finishing, the encouragement and inspiration of today's aspiring technical students. Snap-on's partnership with Skills USA dates back over 35 years, and it involves people from every level of our organization across the entire country. Snap-on employees provide competition and technical advice and judging assistance at Skills USA competitions. Snap-on supplies both the tools used and prizes in competition where the best competitors deserve to test their skills using the best tools. These include competitions like automotive technology, auto collision repair, auto painting, motorcycle, marine, diesel, and aviation technology. 6 Snap-on district managers serve on Skills USA sports, state boards of directors. And Snap-on is proud of the presence it achieves at the Skills USA Leadership and Skills Conference in Louisville. This includes interactive displays, contests, and behind-the-scene engagement for competitors and instructors. With Mr. Pinchuk, they get to go, the students get to go on our Snap-on vehicles that we have there, and that's a big hit. And they get to use Snap-on tools in hands-on and skill competitions. The reason for the longevity and strength of this partnership is that both Snap-on and Skills USA believe in the dignity of work, in the importance and the dignity of the training that goes on. American prosperity is always, the path to it is always going to be cleared by workers who take skills and training they receive from the TCAT system and Skills USA to work with them every day. And these include the personal and workplace skills integral to the Skills USA framework that you saw a few moments ago. And I think you've got it on your, you've got it at your station there. It's really worth a look and continued reference. Personal skills like integrity, professionalism, and self-motivation. Those are traits that a skilled and ready worker takes to work every day. They're skills that Snap-on looks for in the people it hires. Because they're going to go into a workplace, they're going to need skills like teamwork, multicultural awareness and sensitivity, and personal leadership. They're all here. They're all things that businesses are looking for, that communities cannot thrive without, and that individual lives can't succeed in their fullest sense if they don't have them. Snap-on knows that American workers win when they live by the virtues they learn by practicing the Skills USA framework. Today, Snap-on salutes and encourages the partnership between TCAT and Skills USA because Snap-on believes, along with both of them, in the dignity of work. Snap-on salutes Skills USA and TCAT for blending training of and practice of skills of the hands, the head, and the heart to strengthen American workers of the future and to pave their own career success and their families' lifelong prosperity. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions to ask Dr. Murray? Dr. Murray, we really appreciate you being here with us today to help us connect the Skills USA and all of the things that they learn and are able to achieve through that with our workforce development efforts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom, because it is important too, that not only has Snap-on coming in supporting skills as a whole, it's a major employer in this state right here. And that partnership with TCAT Elizabethton, when we knew we were in, as we'd say in West Tennessee, in High Cotton, when Nick Pinchuk came down and cut the ribbon for that new facility himself. And if you ever have the opportunity to hear Nick Pinchuk, you just are in awe. He reminds me, and some of us can remember this commercial. You remember when you had the commercial about E.F. Hutton? When E.F. Hutton spoke, people listen. In today's world of business and industry, when Nick Pinchuk speaks, everybody listens. And so, and we've had him in our great state a couple of times, but Tom, I can't thank you enough for coming in and sharing with us the role that business industry plays and how it supports Skills USA. Thank you. Now, that's why I said you'll see next, we have one of Chattanooga's own today come forward, Miss Molly Martin. She is our Skills USA State President, and she's going to give you a brief overview of how the accomplishments that we made this past year. So let's welcome Miss Molly Martin.
I also want to thank Dr. Murray. I'm not quite sure how I'm supposed to follow that great presentation. But good afternoon. Thank you, Chancellor Gregory, Vice Chair Reynolds, and Regent Varlin, and members of the Workforce Development Committee. It's a pleasure for me to be able to bring you the TCAT report on the 2016 Skills USA National Conference. My name is Molly Martin. I was a student here at TCAT Chattanooga, and I currently serve as the Skills USA Tennessee College Post-Secondary President. Skills USA provides members with the soft skills that employers are looking for in today's job market. Our members gain professionalism through learning aspects of the Skills USA framework, which you saw in the video. We focus on key employability skills that include business and social media etiquette, decision-making, punctuality, leadership, and teamwork. We're working to bridge the skills gap in Tennessee by training all TCAT students with the soft skills that will make them and our state as attractive as possible to potential employers. This year has been an exciting year for the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology and Tennessee Post-Secondary at Skills USA. The TCATs were represented very well at the Skills USA National Conference in Louisville this summer, with over 170 attendees, including competitors, state and national officers, delegates, advisors, administrators, and business and industry guests. During the national conference, 89 TCAT students from across the state, including myself, entered 63 contests. The Tennessee Post-Secondary representation shined on awards night, receiving a total of 37 medals, 17 gold, 12 silver, and 8 bronze. A total of 79 students from the TCAT system placed in the top 10, and 30 received Skills Connect certificates for their performance on skills assessments. Tennessee delegates helped elect Sherry Wilcox from TCAT Knoxville to serve as the Skills USA National Treasurer, which makes Sherry Tennessee's 9th consecutive national officer. In addition, Chancellor King continues to serve on the Skills USA National Board. Our students' commitment to community service was also recognized during the national conference, with 3 groups earning the Presidential Volunteer Service Awards by documenting a total of 2,200 hours of community service. It's 2 gold and 1 bronze. As you can see, Skills USA offers students like myself once-in-a-lifetime opportunities that make them better students, employees, and citizens. The Tennessee Reconnect program allowed me to go back to school, and Skills USA Tennessee has helped me become the professional that stands before you today. I'm thankful to all the TCAT directors and the TCAT system office, especially Vice Chancellor James King. Without their support, the success of the statewide Skills USA program and our students would not be possible. As demonstrated in our performance at Nationals this year, our Skills USA participants are truly champions at work in their technical fields, leadership, and community service. It is my honor to recognize 7 of your 17 national gold medalists that could be with us today and their advisors. As I call your names, please stand. Gold medalist in Quiz Bowl, Richard Mahoney and Sarah Wilson from TCAT Chattanooga. Their advisor is Jill Wentworth. Your gold medalist in First Aid and CPR from TCAT Crossville is April Wan. And your gold medalist in Nurse Assisting, also from TCAT Crossville, is Charcy Henderson. Their advisor is Chastity Key. Your gold medalist in medical terminology, Jill Williams from TCAT Hohenwald. Her advisor is Randy Young. Your gold medalists in Health Knowledge Bowl from TCAT Knoxville are David Pauley and Brittany Reagan. Their advisor is Lakita Curtis. On behalf of all the Skills USA participants, I would like to say thank you to all of our advisors and instructors. Without your hard work, assistance, and dedication, we would not be in front of the board today. I'd especially like to thank my director, Dr. Jim Barrett, and my advisors, Mike Mercer, Alonga James, and Diane Jackson, for their support for ensuring that I was prepared for my service to Skills USA. Also, I'd like to recognize Angela Richardson. Angela is our 2016 Tennessee Advisor of the Year. Under her leadership, TCAT Harriman has developed a fully active chapter with the student leadership, faculty participation, and community input that reaches beyond the local level. One final update on Skills USA. Tomorrow, 20 TCAT students and advisors will leave for Washington, D.C. for the Skills USA Washington Leadership Training Institute. During the 5 days of intense leadership and advocacy training, students will also have the opportunity to meet with their congressmen and women to discuss the importance of technical education and their support of the continuation of Perkins funding. Finally, along with the other gold medalists, I would like to thank the Chancellor, Vice Chair, and the members of the Workforce Development Committee for their continual support of the Tennessee Colleges of Applied Technology and Skills USA. You are champions for the TCAT system, and as a token of our appreciation, we have placed a special gift in front of you. Please accept these gold medals as a visual example of the champion you are for Tennessee students. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, Jim Barrett and crew are pretty bright because they've already hired this young lady. Is that not right, Jim? All right. So they have done well quickly. Once again, Madam Chairman, this concludes our presentation on Skills USA, and I hope the board got a lot out of this. I thought it was well done, and having Dr. Murray here and Molly speaking, I would say that's enough said. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, Vice Chancellor King. Is there any other business that would like to come forward? Well, I move that we adjourn then.
Thank you, Chairman Varlin. Good meeting. And you know, what gives us a spring in our step, right, are the stories of student success. That is what it's all about. So that was an excellent presentation. And I think we all need to remember Dr. Murray's words about our heads, hearts, and our hands doing good work. That was so important. Thank you all. Sarah, Michael, anything to add before we move to our next committee meeting in the wake of that excellent presentation?
I think they said it all.
Okay. Well done. Then again, thank you, Chairman Varlin. We will now call the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs. Regent Thomas is our chair, Regent Duckett, Regent Fitzner, Regent Prescott, Regent Russell, and Regent Varlin.
Good afternoon. I think our committee is assembled, and I will note the presence of a quorum. This is a meeting of the Committee on Academic Policies and Programs. We have 6 items on our agenda, 2 of which require a voice vote, and the other 4 are for informational purposes only. But at this time, I'd like to call on Vice Chancellor Tristan Denley to discuss a new degree program for MTSU.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Madam Vice Chair, Chancellor Gregory, members of the board. The first item that I wanted to present to you is a proposed new degree program at MTSU. So this is a new bachelor's degree in religious studies. This 120-hour program seeks to prepare students to become well-informed, independent, and creative thinkers, equipped with the methods and theories necessary to study religious phenomena in a systematic way. This new program would be housed in the Department of Philosophy within the College of Liberal Arts, and the cost of the program will be recouped by tuition dollars from those students who will be enrolled in that degree. The proposal does envisage hiring 1 new faculty member. That new faculty member would then broaden the scope of the program to also include Eastern religions, but that additional faculty member would be brought on as the program grows. The proposal has been reviewed by the staff and the Office of Academic Affairs, and it's recommended for your approval.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. Are there any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this program. Moved by Regent Russell, seconded by Regent Prescott. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the second item on the agenda, the approval of revision to a certain policy. Vice Chancellor.
Yes, sir. So this policy recommendation is a change to our policy that governs the awarding of credits through methods other than classroom study, so-called extra institutional learning or prior learning assessment. This change to our policy is actually brought about by change in statute. That there was actually a bill that went through the legislature last year that asked both the UT and the TBR system to work together to take another look at how we give credit for military service. So I think it's well known that many of our students are actually currently military personnel, currently serving personnel, or are veterans. And when they come to us, many of the experiences that they've been through as part of their military service create the possibility of there being credit that we could award. And so this legislation asked us to take another look at how it is that we might go about doing that. So the changes that are in front of you actually are, so these changes are also, will soon be presented to the UT board as well. And the basic change is to take the best practices that were happening across our system and really putting those in place as a standard procedure. So it will now be the case that the joint service transcript and the DD-24 will be a standard part of our transcript review when students come to us, that we will adopt the ACE, American Council of Education's recommendations for how those credits would be applied. And then the last part, which is a really important part, is that each campus will also have a procedure for students to be able to choose not to take those credits. I know that sounds a little odd, but in the past, the common procedure has been that when students come, we literally give them all of those credits. Some of them may well be credits that don't actually count towards their degree. And that may actually mean that by giving them those credits, we create difficulties in their financial aid package and their financial aid future. So it's a very important subtlety that's part of this policy. We envisage a procedure on campuses that allow students during their studies to say, well, actually, those elective credits that I was awarded, I choose now not to actually have those on my transcript, and that would then put them in a better position for their financial aid. Does that make some sense? It's a very subtle but a very important point. So altogether, we believe that this package will really make us very responsive to providing the best service we can to military personnel. So I recommend its approval.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. This is an admirable revision to policy, I think. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Motion by
Second.
Regent Prescott and second by Regent Varlin. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Vice Chancellor Denley, if you would now proceed with the next 4 items on the agenda at the end of your presentation, since they are for informational purposes, ask if there are any questions. If not, move on to the next item.
Thank you, sir. So first, let me begin with the annual accreditation report. Of course, it's the case that our system has a long history of being extremely committed to the standards, to the quality of the programs that we offer. And so each year we have a report that lets board members know exactly where we are as far as institutional program and also individual degree program accreditation. And so that's the summary that I'll bring you today. And much of this is in your packet, so I won't go through, if you'll forgive me, line by line. There's much detail there. But the high-level summary is that, first of all, the University of Memphis was reaffirmed by SAC-COC at its December meeting last year, and MTSU and Tennessee Tech both went through their on-site and off-site reviews. So they will be presented at this year's December meeting in Atlanta in a few months' time. All that we know about those visits was that they were very positive and very productive. Austin Peay presented its QEP, its Quality Enhancement Plan, and also a monitoring report to SAC-COC, and TSU presented its 5-year report. So if everything's on a 10-year cycle when it comes to SAC-COC, once every 10 years an on-site and off-site visit, once every 5 years then the interim summary report. Jackson State was reaffirmed at the summer meeting. That's when community colleges are reaffirmed by SAC-COC. So Jackson State was reaffirmed just a month or so ago at the June meeting. And then in addition to that, at 10 other community colleges, there were a variety of interim actions by SAC-COC as they moved forward through their accreditation. So as things stand, we are in good shape with our regional accreditor. From a program accreditation standpoint, it's our stance that all of the programs for which there is accreditation available, we ask all of our programs either to be accredited or to be seeking accreditation. And as things stand, every program in the system, both at the university and at the community college setting, is either already accredited or is working its way through the accreditation process. So in that sense, we are where we absolutely should be, and you can see that we have roughly 90% of the programs are already accredited, and then the remainder are working their way through accreditations. Just in a few lines here, I don't know that it's not possible for me to overestimate the enormity of the work which is summarized in just a few sentences here. Faculty and staff across campuses have worked tireless hours to prepare all of the materials that put their programs into the appropriate shape to be accredited by these national agencies, but also to prepare all the materials for the reviews. So they should be congratulated for their hard work and their success.
Let me comment before I ask for any questions that for a system of our size, I think this is an amazing report. We have so many of our programs accredited or in the process of being accredited. I congratulate you, Vice Chancellor, and as you said, everybody involved. Now, any other questions or comments? If not, move on to the graduation report, please.
So the last part of this review is, and actually this is now an important part of our strategic planning. Up until now, programs which do not have a national accreditor, we ask that they, on a 5-year cycle, move through either an academic audit or a program review. Either way, they're the two subtly different styles of program review, where a team comes in from outside that institution, looks at that program, and takes that program through a self-study very much akin to a national accreditation visit. And so last year we went through 44 programs through academic audit and another 36 programs through program review. It is now the case that we are very much treating this process as being completely analogous to a national accreditor. So in the past, we asked that every institution and every program went through this 5-year cycle. We are now putting in place, as part of the strategic plan that you approved, I guess, in the middle of last year, to actually have an expectation of standard as programs go through that review, that we're now looking for 100% of the programs, just as we look for 100% of the programs to all be either nationally accredited or going through that accreditation process. We are now looking for all of those programs to go through this program review or academic audit at a particular standing. Part of this year's process is actually to put in place exactly what that threshold will be. And so in future reports, you will start to see on this slide an understanding of successfully completing that audit, as opposed to even just going through the process. But again, an enormous amount of work and an important part of our commitment to quality as a system. Happy to answer any questions about any of that.
Questions? No.
Thank you, sir. So now moving on to our graduation report. So first of all, I'm sure that you all know this number, but Chancellor Morgan, I think, suggested that all the staff have the number 43,202 tattooed somewhere on your body. It's a secret where it is, so we will keep it such. But that's in 2025, and you can see on the red bars exactly where we are on that trajectory. And the happy news is that as a system, we are right on target. That we are this year at 35,502 graduations, but for everything from TCAT diplomas all the way up through bachelor's degrees. These are only undergraduate awards that are part of this Drive to 55 trajectory, and as I'm sure you know, that completely aligns with THEC's strategic plan. So a little bit of a breakdown inside. So this is where we are for bachelor's degrees, and you can see for bachelor's degrees we are just absolutely right there. I think we're 60 degrees short of the target or something like that. So very, very close to our bachelor's degree target. This is actually, it's very welcome news that we have continued to make that progress, because as my suspicion is you remember, but I'll show you in just a second, that we have been on a gradual downward trend on the population size in our universities and actually also in our community colleges. And so each successive incoming class has been a little bit smaller than the year before. And so sure enough, every graduating class, every senior class has been, those students, if you like, eligible to graduate, has been a little bit smaller than the ones before. So for us to be able to continue to make progress and graduate more and more students really is a testament to all of the hard work that's been going on. And I'll show you some more about that in just a second. Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay.
Very well. I think the idea that the entering classes are smaller and yet we're maintaining the schedule to get our goal is impressive.
It is impressive and a real testament to their hard work.
Right.
In the community colleges, you can see that associate's degrees are comfortably above target. So the initial first few years were part of the previous strategic plan, and you can see that we recalibrated that to get to where we need to go for Drive to 55. That's the reason for that large step between 2014-15 and 2015-16. But again, the community colleges are comfortably above that target, and both in certificates and also in associate's degrees. So you can see our associate's degree, our community college certificates are above the threshold of the target that we need to reach. And then lastly, for TCATs, so right now those are preliminary awards. The calendar is always subtly different for TCATs. The semesters are not in the same synchronization as the universities and community colleges, so we don't quite have final graduate numbers for TCATs yet, but the preliminary numbers we have are very close to the target and may well exceed it once we have the final numbers. As I said, all of this is part of the pattern of enrollment, and so some very welcome news is that this, what I've dubbed this productivity measure, and I've shown you this the last 2 or 3 years, has been steadily increasing both in the universities and in the community colleges. And this is really the product of many a student success initiative that we've had across campuses. And so this number is the proportion of, in the community colleges, the proportions of people who begin as a sophomore in a particular fall and then graduate during that next academic year. As a sophomore, they are within 30 hours of graduation, and so it's certainly possible that they could graduate. So do they? And then similarly in the universities, it's the proportions of the senior class of a beginning fall. Did they graduate during that coming academic year? And you can see that we have seen a good and steady and impressive progress in those productivity measures. This coming year, we will be looking deeply at, so what is it that is, are there significant and definable barriers to students actually doing that, completing that degree within that next academic year? Of course, we welcome all of their graduations, but if there are any, if there are any particular barriers that are presenting problems to their graduating, we need to find out what those are and begin to find ways to remove those. But even as things stand, you can see a good steady increase in the proportions of those people who are moving through and graduating. And so that's, whenever you see a 34% increase in something in higher education, you know that something good is happening. So,
Yeah. Excellent, excellent. Any questions or comments? Yeah, Regent Russell.
Tristan, do you define a senior as somebody with 90 credit hours or someone with 30 credit hours left in their degree path?
Yeah, so the way that we did it, you're exactly right. We actually did it with somebody who has 90 hours. It is occasionally the case that we have degree programs that are a little bit past that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was also going to say, like, for me, I got an email and it's like, you're a senior, and I was a little surprised because I have 3 semesters left, and it was because of the point you spoke of earlier. They were counting credits that weren't towards, like, in my degree path, in my total undergraduate credit hours. So I was wondering if that was skewing your numbers lower.
Well, it really is one of the things we're going to look deeply at. Is it the case that students who are in those senior years, is it that there are many courses they yet need to take, and so that's what's taking a little longer than that extra year? Is it that they need particular courses and for whatever reason they are not offered or not offered with the needed kind of capacity? Is it that they're taking those classes but actually end up just kind of falling at the last hurdle and so end up having to take something else? The answer right now is it'll take a deeper dive into the data to be able to find that, but as you might imagine, I'm perfectly happy to do that. So we will be doing that this year.
Excellent comment.
That's a great comment.
Regent Reynolds?
Yes, and Chancellor, you may want to help address this as well. As we continue our transition with the Focus Act, will we still look at the 43,202 number, or as we focus more as a board on community colleges and TCATs? How do you envision, and we may not be there yet, but how do we envision looking at this report?
No, we're getting there, and you'll see tomorrow, Madam Vice Chairman, in our completion delivery unit presentation, sort of a refashioning of sort of what the post-focus numbers will look like for the Board of Regents system going forward.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Any further comments or questions on this item? Yes.
Ma'am, Mr. Chairman. If it's not too much trouble, Carol, could you roll back to the beginning of the
maybe you can get
bar
this
graph
straight
that
now.
shows the degree production? Back. 2 more, I
2
believe.
more.
1 more, Carol.
There we
Yeah,
go.
thank you. If I might, Mr. Chairman, just on this point, it's worth marinating just a little bit on that column of credential production and the trajectory. I mean, this really is the public agenda. And this really is one of the main anchors for the work that the Board of Regents is doing. And I'll tell you, this is it's probably a moment in time, but each of the presidents and directors I congratulate for continuing on this pathway. It's hard work. As you can see, there's much more work to be done. But I don't want to let this moment pass without saying that the student success initiatives that are going on, the recruitment efforts, the returning efforts, the innovation that's going on through our system, and it's well below our presidents and directors. It's in the, I'd like to say it's in the DNA of our school, of our faculty and staff, that we're about student success and credential production. And so yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about it again tomorrow, Mr. Chairman, in our completion report, but it really is a time for us to know that we are on track and we are producing the awards that we need to. We're pulling our end of the rope, if you would, towards the Drive to 55. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor, for those excellent comments.
I'm sorry, if I may, I'd love to address a question while we're marinating here for another minute. I'd love to address a question to Dr. Harris and Austin and Michael and Sarah. What are you all feeling on your campuses as we all work toward these goals together? Austin?
Something that I really noticed during the other meeting, whenever we were looking at some of the statistics, is that here at Chattanooga State, we had some of the highest percentages of the community colleges, and I can definitely feel that this year. It's really strong. I feel like the students and the teachers are really cooperating with each other, and I'm just glad to see that community colleges as a whole, how great they're doing.
Any further comment?
I think Dr. Harris has one.
Dr. Harris?
And I'll just add from the nursing perspective, what we've done is that, as you all know, nursing is very competitive to get in, and so our applicants always outweigh the number that we can admit. So what we did is the dean and I worked with our provost, Dr. Nichols, and Dr. Tidings, that we were able to gradually increase the number of students that we were able to admit so that we can continue to work toward the goal of the 43,000. But every year it's a challenge to try to not only admit but to find quality clinical spots for them. So that's one of the things that we continue to face. And Regent from Regent Varlin and I have had some ideas about how we can collaborate across the state as to how do we increase enrollment while maintaining quality.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Did Michael?
Any further comments? Any comments from the other regents? If not, we'll move to the fifth item on our agenda, preliminary fall enrollment report. Vice Chancellor Denley.
Thank you. I just have a couple more things to show you on the
excuse me.
product. No, of course. As the Chancellor said, we've really been working hard as a system on really a broad array of student success initiatives. Really the timescale of that began back in 2012-13. And so we are well within a 6-year window to be able to see any impact on 6-year graduation rates. But it is the case that for the first time we are now able to see the impact of those kinds of initiatives on 3-year graduation rates in the community colleges, and you can see there's been a good 42% increase in 3-year graduation rates over the last 4 years, which is really a stunning increase. Just to put it in perspective, that 3-year graduation rate is pretty close to the 6-year graduation rate which we currently have. So it's that kind of increase. Of course, this doesn't in any way take into it, this is graduating from that particular institution. So in the community college setting, it doesn't take into account when those students graduate or move on to a university before they finish out their associate's degree, and when they get there either in a bachelor's degree or a reverse transfer degree. It doesn't take into account when they move to another community college and graduate, and it doesn't take into account if they move to a UT school or another school. These are literally graduations from that particular institution, but a really stunning increase, sharp increase in those 3-year graduation rates. Similarly, in the university sector, a good 25% increase in 4-year graduation rates. Again, as I say, If you look at 5-year graduation rates, they are roughly flat. If you look at 6-year graduation rates, again, roughly flat, because of the fact that those initiatives have not had their time to sort of work through the student body yet. But all of this bodes very well for the future increase in us meeting on an ongoing basis the kinds of targets we have set for ourselves. Of course, part of that is enrollment. It is very hard for us to meet those graduation targets unless we actually have a student body. Right. Yeah. And so that's really the segue into where we are this year. So these are our preliminary enrollment reports as of the 14th day. As is tradition, you will see the slight disclaimers of the fact that these are not, in no way are these final TCAT numbers. Those we will not know for a considerable time, but they are numbers that are consistently this 10th day census. And then also Austin Peay has a second full semester at Fort Campbell, which we will not know the enrollment until well into the fall. But these are our numbers as things stand. You can see in the universities we're down by a little more than half a percentage point. In the community colleges, down by about 2.3%. And then in the TCATs, up by a little more than 2%. If you'll remember, last year there was and you can see it right there, a very substantial increase in TCAT population. And so to further increase even after that very substantial increase last year is certainly some very welcome news. So let me dig kind of inside that a little bit so you can see how that all plays out. So first of all, the overall year-by-year enrollment trend in the universities and community college. You can see that basically since fall 2010, 2011, just after the large-scale recession that this country went through, that was the place where we saw our greatest enrollment. And this is sort of a well-known phenomenon that enrollment in universities and community colleges, especially in community colleges, is counter-cyclical, that as economies improve, so people tend to go into the workforce rather than education, and as economies take a downturn, so people run to education rather than the workforce. And so in many ways this fits very much with that pattern. Of course, we seek to run counter to that pattern for us to be successful, but that is the pattern. So that downturn is really masked by several different things, and so I want to show you a little in that. Of course, our incoming classes this year are both very healthy. So at the universities and the community colleges, and also as the TCATs, as I've just shown you, our populations are significantly up over where they were up until 2014. In fall 2015, of course, this was the first year of the Tennessee Promise. We saw a very substantial increase in incoming student population at the community colleges and a slight downturn in incoming freshman population at in the universities. This year, you can see actually there's a little bit of a sort of a redistribution, it seems, across those students who are coming directly from high school. That the community colleges still are getting a very healthy increase over that 10,000 odd that they were getting up until then over 2012, 13, 14. So they're down a little from where they were last year in 2015, and the universities are correspondingly up a little. So it seems as though maybe there's a phenomenon that some high school students, the way in which they make this decision as to whether they go to a university or a community college as part of the Tennessee Promise is sort of balancing itself out some. That appears to be the phenomenon. But either way, a very healthy pattern that our universities clearly are now on an upswing as far as their incoming class goes, and the community colleges certainly a very good and healthy incoming freshman class. So that's for students coming directly from high school. The pattern for adults is quite different, and I've already sort of shown my hand with that. And so what I thought would be helpful would be to put that that enrollment for students over 25 and put it together with the chart of Tennessee's unemployment rate. And you can see that they compare hauntingly well. So it really is the case that this large-scale phenomena that as more employment is available, so people go take it, it runs counter to our efforts to bring them back. Of course, it is the case now that that Tennessee Reconnect and a number of different kinds of initiatives to re-engage adults are just about to come into play in their own right and in their own full force. And so we anticipate that maybe we will be able to bend that trend, and it will be a welcome change when we do so. But it is a powerful trend for us to bend. On the overall sort of pattern of the way in which enrollments go, there's too many bars and numbers on this chart, but I did want to give you at least some feeling about what that looks like. As I've said, up until now in the university setting, basically every incoming class has been slightly smaller than the one before, up until this last year, which is an important change. But the welcome trends to see, you'll see the junior class is now starting to increase. So this bodes well for our coming years, that as that, juniors become seniors and seniors will graduate, and we can see that initiatives that we have to increase graduate greater numbers of our seniors are already in place. So this bodes well for graduations in the university sector on an ongoing basis for the next few years. And similarly in our community college setting, some welcome trends there. A little bit of a downturn in the overall freshman class, but that's this combination of a very large incoming high school class and a slight downturn in the adult class. But you can see the sophomore class has started to go the other way, and we have already shown you a substantial increase in that productivity measure, that we should expect a good, healthy graduating class from the community college this year. And then the other, which is a very welcome trend, an increase in that undergraduate special. So that's our official designation for dual enrollment students. So one of our part of our strategic plan was to try to engage many more students in dual enrollment experiences. We know that this phenomenon bodes well for college going, that students who have some kind of college level experience as part of their high school experience are much more likely to go to college and much more likely to be successful when they get there. So this long longitudinal trend of that population gradually increasing, this is a very welcome trend for us. So happy to answer any questions about enrollment this
Any
fall.
questions or comments? Yes, Regent Fitzner.
Fitzner,
yeah, excuse me.
It's okay, it's my first day. Thank you for these numbers.
Sure.
I'm interested in, is there any anticipation on your part about how we're going to maintain hitting our targets despite this apparent downtrend in our overall enrollment? Are we going to rethink the targets, or are we going to rethink, what are we going to do in order to handle that?
Well, actually, it's a fabulous segue, and thank you very much, into what it is that I'm just about to talk about.
We planned that.
There you go, exactly. First of all, it really is the case, that productivity measure is an important piece to see that the size of the eligible graduating class, if you like, as that gradually does reinvigorate, as it will in both the community college and university sector, it really will be the case that we will be graduating an increasing proportion of those students, and so consequently that bodes well in the short term for us to being able to reach the targets that we want.
Okay.
But that won't do it to 2025. So but there are other student success initiatives which we have in place which are not part of the picture that I've already shown you, and that's really what I want to show you for the rest of the presentation.
Before you get into that, are there any other questions or comments on the enrollment report? I'd say, generally speaking, it's a positive report. Oh, excuse me.
I'm so sorry.
No, of course. Sorry.
Why don't we count transfers?
Why don't we count transfers?
Just haven't gotten to it yet.
We certainly can. It just hasn't been a number which we've traditionally shown, but I can certainly give you what those look like, and not an unreasonable thing for us to do.
Thank you.
The challenge with these presentations is always how many numbers to show, but we certainly can give you those numbers.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Any other comments or questions? I would only comment that your previous comment about during recessions our enrollment goes up and during prosperity it goes down. I'd rather our enrollment go down than have another recession.
It
A
is
little parenthetical.
It is an odd dialectic, isn't it?
All right, go to the final item on our agenda.
Well, you know, and the challenge really is to have our cake and eat it too. I mean, there is no, you know, our aspiration should be to bend the trend, and I think we have some good plans in place to
Yeah,
do
we're
so.
getting close to that.
I think that's right. So student success initiatives which are not part of what I've shown you. I've shown you now that productivity measures, this is really things that we have in place to get people out when they get to be seniors or sophomores. And then I've also shown you impact on 3- and 4-year graduation rates. The two large-scale system-wide initiatives that we put in place last year, this idea of having an academic focus area and requiring students to have that academic direction, and then also our large-scale change in developmental education, the introduction of the co-requisite model. Those were both brand new initiatives last year, first put in place for that incoming class. Of course, don't appear in any of those numbers yet. And so what I want to show you is the promise that the leading indicators suggest that those things really will continue to make the progress we've already seen. So the first is around the academic focus area idea. And again, to recap, up until this point, roughly a third of our student population came to colleges and universities, and when they were asked, well, what are you studying? They said, I'm undecided. They didn't have a particular program of study, and there's a sense in which perhaps this is understandable of someone who comes to a college and there are lots and lots and lots and lots of choices. What we know in behavioral economics is that when faced with many choices, if one of the choices you can choose later, lots of people will say, well, then I'll choose later. And so our large-scale analysis of that showed that by doing that, they actually disadvantaged themselves. And instead, if we worked with them to help them to find a program, they would be much better served by us and much more likely to be successful. So now where are we with that? Well, this is where we are. First of all, once students have a particular direction, then we can look and see how what they study in that first year, how it actually influences their success. And this is some brand new research from the Academic Affairs Office, which actually parallels some earlier work by the Community College Research Center. And what it shows is that if students in their first academic year, if they study at least 9 hours in the area that they thought they were choosing. In other words, if they go away from that first year thinking that they felt like they studied what they thought they chose, that in the community college setting, it doubles their graduation rate. And in the university sector, it increases their graduation rate by about 50%. So these are really striking changes to graduation rates, and you'll see that the impact, yes, of course, it's the case that if students earn those hours, they are much more likely to graduate because, well, they earned hours. And so it's not very surprising that they would be more successful than students who didn't earn hours. But if you can see, even attempting at least 9 hours in their focus area, this already gives a striking impact on their likelihood of success. Remember, these 9 hours are, of course, part of an overall perhaps 30 hours of study. It's what they are studying. It's the way in which they feel about the studies that they are taking. So that's an important phenomena for us to build on. What's very welcome news is that all of the initiatives that we put in place to help students to come up with that overall academic direction, and also once they did that, of course, we've been having a large-scale concept of course redesign to help more students be successful, and also the putting in place guided pathways and new kinds of advising initiatives. You can see there's been a striking increase in the proportions of students who have indeed during their first year completed at least 9 hours or attempted at least 9 hours of study in their focus area. So this is at least part of the answer to Regent Fitzner that if we are able to move more students into a place where they are much more likely to graduate, then we should expect that to be a leading indicator for years from now for them to be graduating in increasing numbers. Again, just as we saw with our graduation rates, those changes are also closing achievement gaps. One of the things I neglected to say back when we were looking at 3- and 4-year graduation rates was there were very striking increases in 3- and 4-year graduation rates for our minority student population. And you can see that for this particular measure, we basically doubled the proportions of minority students who during their first year are really feeling that they're studying what they thought they chose. And so this really does bode extremely well for the coming years to see many more graduations. And this is a completely novel approach. So this is something that we will really be exploring to truly really understand how we might yet make further progress on this. But we really think that it's a very fruitful place to look. The other is, as I said, the introduction of the co-requisite model, and you've at least seen variants of these numbers before, but these are literally the final academic year's numbers for those students who went through our co-requisite model. The baseline, if you remember, in mathematics was that roughly 12% of our students who began in learning support completed a credit-bearing math class during that first academic year. You can see that last year that rose to almost 55%. So just to put that in perspective, more people passed a credit-bearing math class in the community colleges last year than in the previous 5 years combined. It's a really striking change. In writing, a very similar kind of picture. There, the baseline was roughly 30%, and that doubled to almost 62%. So really astonishing changes in the success rates of those students in freshman writing and freshman mathematics. I did not put a slide in to show you this, but in freshman writing, of course, there's a whole other semester. And we do have now data to show that in that next semester, those students went on and passed English Composition 2, English 1020, at roughly a 70% success rate. So a very encouraging number for us to see. An important thing. It was one of the next leading indicators for us to really know that this really was working and not simply putting off the inevitable, perhaps. So. If that's the picture in reading and writing, is there anything for us to see large scale about how we might envisage this playing out? And it turns out that there is. In just the same way that I just showed you about this idea of that focus area being important, we did a similar analysis to see what kind of impact passing both semesters of writing and the credit-bearing math class in your discipline during that first academic year, well, what does that do to your overall likelihood of success? As things stand, all I've shown is that there is a correlation, but actually, I think before I've shown you this sort of structural analysis of our system's curriculum to show that, perhaps not surprisingly, reading, writing, and arithmetic really are at the heart and foundation of everything that we study. And so it's not perhaps surprising that success in these classes would go on to suggest success later. But again, a more than doubling of a graduation rate in the community colleges and an almost doubling of graduation rates in the universities. So this is an important thing for us to pay attention to. I'm very happy to be able to show you that based on the changes that we have this year, the introduction of the co-requisite both in the universities and community colleges, that you can see we have a very substantial increase, 79% increase in the proportions of students who did indeed complete all of those 3 courses during their first year in the community college, and a good 10% increase in the universities. And again, even more striking numbers for our minority students. So a 240% increase for minority students in the community college and 25% increase in the universities. I know as you look at the community college numbers, especially over here, those numbers are small. Look at that, a 240% increase to 12%. Yeah, but if you'll remember the first slide I showed you with co-requisite, 12% used to be the proportion of students who passed a credit-bearing math class before we began this work. So in that sense, yes, there is more work to be done, but this, again, is a really healthy picture for us to see. So hopefully that's at least a partial answer to your question, and an important one too, that what we would envisage is that as these initiatives now work their way through the student body, that next year and the year after and the year after, we would continue to see the progress that we've made. And of course, there will be other student success initiatives which we are also working on to continue this progress.
Great. Do you have any comment or response?
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure. Happy to answer any questions that...
Thank you, Vice Chancellor. You've given us a lot of very encouraging information in the process of your 6 items. Are there any questions or comments before we adjourn this committee? If not, we are adjourned. Excuse me.
May I just make one comment? You wouldn't hear this from Dr. Denley himself, but just on the sort of the end of this numbers you're seeing on co-requisite remediation, I just wanted to let the board members know, I guess it was week before last, Dr. Denley was invited to Seattle, Washington. Probably one of the best innovators in our lifetime, Bill Gates, invited Brett Kerwin along with Dr. Tristan Denley to the Gates Foundation to hear a presentation. They're really about this issue of developmental education and how can they make inroads in developmental education. They're watching what we're doing and they're seeing Tennessee take this to scale. And Dr. Denley will be first to tell you it's not him alone, it's him and many, many people across our system, but he's certainly one of our leaders. They're seeing Tennessee make the kind of strides you're seeing on these charts and taking note of that. So I just wanted to give Tristan kudos for that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. If there are no further comments or questions, we are adjourned.
Thank you. All right, good news on all fronts there. We will now move on to the Personnel and Compensation Committee. At this time, we'll change seats and invite up the chair of the committee, Regent Roddy, joined by Regents Freeman, Shockey, Smith, Thomas, and Varlin. While we make that change to our friends from Chattanooga State and the TCAT here, any observations on what we just heard? Anything happening on your campus you'd like to share with us?
I think personally here at Chattanooga State, a really great initiative that we have going for us is our college success classes. My college success class that I took last year really helped me. My professor was also my advisor and one of my professors in my mass communications program. Her name's Angela McClister. She is an outstanding teacher in everything that she does. She even went as far as to sit out on the bridge across the pond and tell her students in her college success class, you know, what are the best times to come to campus so that you can get a good parking space. She literally sat there and clocked traffic. And just teachers like that are what gives community colleges a good name.
That's great. Well said. Thank you for sharing that. Michael, Sarah, anything to share?
Well, I would just say that the Tennessee Promise and the Tennessee Reconnect really upped our numbers as far as from a TCAT perspective. All of our classes were filling up, and it's been wonderful.
And since we touched on veterans, our military folks, have you seen an increase through Reconnect and Promise?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Excellent,
So-
excellent. Sarah, anything to add? All right, thank you. So thanks, you guys. Good perspective. Let's see, we still need Regent Smith here. Regent Thomas? Regent Thomas?
Bob?
Regent Thomas, I think we need you back here, my friend. And Regent Varlin, when she returns. Yeah. But I think you have a quorum, if you'd like to go ahead and
Whenever you
start,
give me the
Mr. Chairman. Okay, I think we're good.
All right.
I'm calling the Committee on Personnel and Compensation of the Tennessee Board of Regents to order. Madam Secretary, I would appreciate it if you'd please call the roll.
Regent Freeman. Regent Roddy.
Here.
Regent Shockey.
Here.
Regent Smith. Regent Thomas.
Here.
Regent Varlin. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. The first item on our agenda is the consent agenda. The committee has previously reviewed the following items: an out-of-cycle request by Chattanooga State for promotion for a faculty member inadvertently omitted from their June submission. That's the first item. The second item, recommendations on tenure upon appointment for 19 faculty members from all 6 universities, as well as Chattanooga State and Pellissippi State. Those are 2 of the agenda items on the consent agenda. Materials presented under the consent agenda have been provided to all members of the board. After your review of these materials, and hoping everyone has reviewed them, after your review of those, does anyone see cause to remove those 2 items out from the consent agenda? Are there any questions, or are there items that you'd like to see removed? All right. If there's no further discussion or action on those 2 consent agendas, well, on our consent agenda period, if there are none, we'll proceed with a motion to accept those items under consent agenda. Do I hear a motion? I've got a motion from Regent Thomas. And I've got a second from Regent Freeman. Thank you. Second, let's see. The second item, the committee will
Take your vote.
Oh, okay. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda indicate by saying aye. Any?
I think that we have a voice vote on that because it has to do with compensation.
Oh, all right. Madam
Not a
Secretary.
voice vote, a roll call vote.
All right.
Roll call.
Madam Secretary, if you'd proceed with the roll call vote.
Regent Freeman? Yes. Regent Roddy?
Aye.
Regent Shockey?
Aye.
Regent Smith?
Aye.
Regent Thomas?
Aye.
Regent Varlin?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you so much. The second item, the committee will review and consider for approval the institutional compensation proposals. And at this point, I'll call on Vice Chancellor Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
members of the committee. I'll go over this relatively briefly. You've heard parts of this on at least 2 occasions. In your June meeting, you reviewed a proposed outline of strategies that you would authorize your institutions to employ in regard to compensation, deployment of compensation resources in the upcoming year, in the current year. They were given flexibility that I think the sense of the board was, and this year would be an appropriate year to give maximum flexibility to institutions. That flexibility results in institutions being able to propose adjustments based on funding their comp plan in various ways. They could also propose cost of living adjustments. They could propose to fund faculty promotions with their compensation pools, as well as one-time payment, essentially incentive-type compensation, and funding additional positions. These strategies were arrived at based upon soliciting input from your institutions. Great variety of different needs on campuses, and I think the board's position on this was we need to give flexibility for campuses to use these resources in a way that maximizes their benefit. That has resulted in a great variety of ways that folks have proposed to use these resources. This table summarizes that. You can see that if you look at the university column, 5 of the universities proposed using the funding to fund their compensation plan. 5 were also proposing to use it to provide some form of COLA, 2 with faculty promotions, 2 with one-time payments. You can see that they are mixing these since that totals more universities than we have. So again, a mix of strategies being deployed by the various institutions. Community colleges, much the same way, primarily proposing to use these funds for funding of their compensation plan to keep those plans closer to market, as well as COLAs and to a lesser degree, one-time payments and additional positions. In terms of the dollars involved, I know for folks in the audience, these numbers are pretty small, but the numbers are pretty big. In total, about $19.8 million in compensation improvements. The lion's share of that being within the COLA category, $9.8 million, followed by comp plan adjustments, almost $5.4 million in smaller amounts for the remainder. You can also see the distribution in the chart between the various sectors. How that applies across employment types, not unsurprisingly, your faculty are the beneficiaries of over half of this funding, with smaller amounts for clerical support, professional staff, and administrative staff. Mr. Chairman, that's a brief overview of the materials that are included within your board materials. I'll be glad to stand for questions that you might have, but otherwise, this is before you for action through roll call.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Sims. Are there any questions for the Vice Chancellor? All right, you've heard the report by Vice Chancellor Sims. Pending any questions, we'll move on. Is there a motion to approve the increases as presented by the Vice Chancellor? Is there a motion? We have a motion by Regent Smith. Let's see, is there a second? We've got a second by Regent Varlin. Is that a roll call since there are funds involved?
Yes, sir.
All right, would you proceed, please?
Regent Freeman. Regent Roddy.
Aye.
Regent Shockey.
Aye.
Regent Smith.
Aye.
Regent Thomas.
Aye.
Regent Varlin.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. And as the third and final item on the agenda, the committee will hear from General Counsel Mary Moody on the proposed revision of TBR policy 7:01:00:00. That item is firearms and other weapons. And I'll turn it over to Mary Moody, our counsel.
As I told you when you adopted this policy at your last quarterly meeting, that we'd probably see some need to amend it as we put it into practice, and of course that's already happened. And the provision that we're looking at amending currently reads as follows. In accordance with TCA 3917-1309E9 and subject to the limitations set forth in this policy, full-time employees who possess a valid handgun carry permit and are authorized to carry a handgun under TCA 3917-1351 may carry a handgun on property owned, operated, or controlled by the TBR institution at which they are employed, provided that they are not permitted to carry a handgun openly or in any manner in which the handgun is visible to ordinary observation, or to intentionally disclose to other employees, students, or third parties that they are carrying a handgun, except for the registration required in subsection 1 below. So two issues arose as we put this into play, and the first was that there were questions from employees who were concerned about carrying their handguns if the question was, well, if something occurs and I feel that it's in the interest of safety, I should use my handgun. At that point, they have to display. For example, if they were in an active shooter situation and they felt that they could defend somebody by using their handgun, the concern was that they would be violating the policy by pulling the handgun from its concealed place to display it. And so we are proposing to amend, well, let me go on with the other problem that we got to that. And then the provision that nobody was to intentionally disclose that they had the handgun is not working out on some of our smaller campuses. It's not that they're disclosing intentionally verbally, but there are other ways in which it gets disclosed that's just not working on the smaller campuses. So the intent of that was to prevent intimidation or threats from people just, I've got a gun sort of thing. So we're going to revise the policy in the following ways. First, by deleting this language from section 2A, or we're going to delete, or to intentionally disclose to other employees, students, or third parties that they are carrying a handgun, except for the registration required in subsection 1 below. And we're going to add, unless the employee, so the disclosure part's going away. So now we're left with a sentence about not displaying the handgun. So we're going to modify that by adding, unless the employee is carrying, displaying, or employing the handgun in justifiable self-defense or in justifiable defense of another during the commission of a crime in which the employee or the other person defended was a victim. Now, I got some questions when we started talking about this, was who decides what's justifiable? The police decide law enforcement decides what's justifiable. If you pulled the gun to defend somebody or yourself, we don't decide whether that was justified. The police will come at that point and they'll decide. And so we're going to add that, and then we're going to add as an additional section, Roman numeral 2A10, employees who elect to carry a handgun under TCA 3917-1309E9 shall not disclose the fact that they are carrying a handgun with the intent to intimidate or threaten other employees, students, or third parties. So we think that takes care of the issue of trying to intimidate somebody by the fact that you're carrying a handgun. So I would recommend approval of those policy changes.
So I think what you're saying is you have to keep your handgun concealed.
Yes, it still has to be concealed.
Unless there's a threat.
Right.
And then you can pull it
If there
out.
is a situation where you think you are justified in defending yourself or a third person who you or the person are the victim of a crime or about to be the victim of a crime, then you can display the handgun for that purpose.
Thank you.
And the police will determine whether...
And yes, nobody on our staff is going to, except law enforcement, will decide whether it's justifiable.
Are there any other questions or comments from the committee? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the revisions as presented by General Counsel Moody?
So moved.
We have a motion by both regions, Freeman and Thomas. A motion and a second. Let's see here. Having the motion and the second, is there any further discussion from the committee? And if not, all those in favor, if they would say, of the revision, if they would say aye or nay. Thank you. The motion carries. And this concludes our agenda for the Committee on Personnel and Compensation. Do I have a motion to adjourn? We've got a motion from Regent Freeman and a second from Regent Thomas. The Committee on Personnel and Compensation hereby stands adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good work. So our final committee meeting of the day with additional important items for everyone's consideration is Finance and Business. We'll play musical chairs here one more time with Regent Duckett as Chair of the Finance Committee, Regent Freeman, Regents Griscom, Roddy, Russell, Smith, and once again Bob Thomas for Finance and Business.
That's yours, isn't it?
Oh, it is, thank you. Yes, I've got my stuff going everywhere.
Oh, that's okay.
Thanks.
All right, I'm gone. Thank you.
question for you.
Noting the presence of a quorum, I will call the committee meeting of Finance and Business Operations to order. Today we have 3 items that are printed on the agenda. There is also one additional item that we will be discussing today as part of the committee meeting today. The first item on our agenda is the review of the consent agenda. The consent agenda items being presented for approval today are as follows. Approval of new policy 1.10.00.00 contracts. This new policy was developed to align with recently adopted procurement policies. Next, we have recommended revisions to policy 1.03.02.10, approval of procurement and contracts. The revisions to this policy were developed to align with recently adopted procurement policy. Approval of new policy 4.02.10.00, procurement card. This policy provides for the administration and control of procurement cards. And lastly, technology access fee spending plan for fiscal year 2016-2017. The spending plans have been reviewed and were in compliance with board guidance. Does any member of the committee wish to have any of those items, either of those items, removed from the consent agenda for a separate vote? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda? So moved. It's been moved by Regent Freeman, second by Regent Griscom. This matter requires a voice vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposed is no. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the presentation of the capital budget for fiscal year 2017-2018. Presentation of this item will be in 3 parts. First, Mr. Dick Tracy, Executive Director of Facilities, will present the proposed capital budget. Next, Vice Chancellor Sims will present a proposed modification to the proposed capital budget. And finally, the Vice Chancellor will present the matching funds plan for projects included within the proposed capital budget. I would like to call on Mr. Dick Tracy, Executive Director of Facilities, to present the capital budget.
Thank you, Chairman Duckett, members of the committee. I want to thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. For your consideration, I'm pleased to present staff recommendations for the 2017-18 Tennessee Board of Regents capital budget. Please direct your attention to the screens and to the materials that you've been provided titled Summary of the Capital Request 2017-2018. There are 3 classifications of projects in the recommendation for capital budget. These are the capital outlay projects, our capital maintenance projects, and project disclosures utilizing school bonds and other funding. These classifications are in accordance with the guidelines of THEC and the administration of the capital budget requests. The capital outlay projects on the list have been objectively analyzed for relatively priority according to the formula developed for this purpose. The 3 categories of evaluation in this formula are the type of space in the project, the composite shortage, functionality and quality, and we also require a brief narrative on the Complete College Tennessee Act. In addition, the project principles for capital outlay include a capital match program. We are recommending funding 12 capital outlay projects for the 2017-2018 as shown on booklet page 5. At THEC's request, we have broken the requests into 2 priority lists with 3 projects for the universities and 9 projects for the community colleges and TCATs. In the left-hand column is the year in which each project was placed on the list. 4 new projects have been evaluated and are being added to the prioritization list. The total of the 2 lists being recommended is $294,680,000. When adjusted by the match contribution required by the institutions, the capital outlay request for universities is $66,487,500 and $188,612,000 for the community colleges TCATs, for a total of $255,099,500. Capital outlay funding is very important to the quality of our facilities. Over the past 5 years, we've received an average funding of approximately $99 million each year, which includes special appropriations, and we appreciate the funding that we have received. Also, it's important that we're able to maintain our existing facilities. Over the past 5 years, we've received an average of funding for capital maintenance of approximately $33 million each year. This equates to about $1.30 per square foot for capital maintenance. We need to continue making sufficient funding of capital maintenance a high priority. The formula presented on the booklet, page 8, for annual target funding for capital maintenance produces a target just over $119 million. This equates to $4.61 per square foot of the education general square footage. The annual target number is the level of capital maintenance funding for our buildings and infrastructure that we need to strive for each year. On booklets page 9 through 11, we have a summary of our capital maintenance projects. We have worked carefully on this list to address the major needs of our system in a meaningful way. With approximately 26 million square feet of education and general space spread out over 46 campuses and a number of off-campus operations, with both a constant and growing need for capital maintenance funding. We are recommending funding of 80 projects for the 2017-2018, as shown on booklet pages 9 through 11. These projects total $116,450,000. In addition to the annual new request, there were 55 additional maintenance projects submitted by our campuses, totaling another $94,430,000. This made a total submittal capital maintenance of projects of $210,880,000. All of our capital maintenance projects have been documented by our campuses. Projects that are over and above the annual maintenance renewal for capital maintenance are accumulated for future reference. On booklet page 14 is a list of that the campuses are disclosed and be funded from other sources. This is the project disclosure list that traditionally has been included in the governor's budget. It gives us state government a heads up as to projects that campuses are planning in addition to the capital budget request. These projects do not have a priority order. Funding for these projects can come from a number of sources, including gifts, grants, and also through the School Bond Authority. Since some of these projects could request additional student fees at a future board meeting, we're not asking that for these to be approved. They're just listing these projects for future reference. 20 projects from 8 institutions are included in the disclosure. The next slide in booklet page 15 shows a 5-year estimate for capital outlay and maintenance. Out years for capital maintenance have been adjusted for the community colleges and TCATs. Since the actual appropriations will vary from our annual request for capital outlay, the total years 2 through 5 will change. An allocation for capital maintenance is shown along with yearly totals, which produces a 5-year total of just under $1.2 billion for capital budget estimate. The next slide in booklet page 16 shows the unranked first and second priorities of capital outlay for our institutions. These projects are pending future rankings in total over $118 million. And this list is for information only. The next slide in booklet page 17 gives a recap of the staff recommendation for the 2017-2018 capital budget request for a total of $411,130,000. These recommendations are presented for your consideration approval. Chairman Duckett, that completes the staff presentation of the capital budget requests and recommendations, and I'll stand down at this time for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Tracy, and I was remiss at the start of the committee meeting in not thanking the committee members who have worked diligently with staff to help develop this information that is being presented today. I do appreciate the time that each of you have spent individually working with members of the team and reaching the proposed capital budget that is being presented today. At this time, I would ask committee members, are there any questions of Mr. Tracy? Hearing none, what I would like to do at this time is to ask Vice Chancellor Sims to present a proposed modification to the capital budget and the matching fund plan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I could, before I begin that, I would like to personally thank Dick Tracy, Keith King, and Diane Euler of the facility staff. They spend many, many hours working through these proposed projects to develop this list for consideration by members and by the board in total, and their work is appreciated. It's of high quality. In relation to their work, Mr. Chairman, I think Dick has outlined for you the matrix that they go through. They have a prioritization process that is objective, and that results in the priorities that are before you today. We did have a request from the University of Memphis this year to substitute a project. Project substitutions are contemplated within board practice. We've had substitutions in the past. In this case, the staff has not recommended substitution of the music center or music building for the existing biochemistry building. The staff, in arriving at that conclusion, did so based upon application of their standard process. What I would like to bring to your attention in consultation with Chancellor Gregory, there are factors that the staff are not charged to take into account that we believe are relevant to the conversation with the board about whether this substitution should be permitted to go forward. Those factors include campus priority. The biochemistry building, while it's been on our list for quite some time, from the president of the institution, we understand that this is no longer the #1 priority for the campus, that the music building, the music center, is their #1 capital priority. Failure to permit the substitution would essentially require the institution to go forward with a project that they no longer view as their #1 capital outlay priority. A second factor that we think is relevant is match availability. We understand that the music building that they currently have of the $11 million or so in match required by the state, that they have that in hand. So that's a factor on contrasting that with the biochemistry building where they do not have match in place. If we go forward with that recommendation to not substitute, inevitably there would be delay in raising the match for that biochemistry building. There are certain donor issues. A significant portion of the match that is currently in place for the music center is contingent upon things such as breaking ground, contingent upon state funding for the project. It's our sense that delaying moving forward puts at risk those pieces of match. So we think that is a factor that should be taken into account. Maybe importantly, Focus Act has implications here. This is the last capital budget that this board will address on behalf of the four-year institutions. Not substituting, which is within the prerogative of the board, if we presume, and I believe that it's not an unlikely event, that the independent board for the University of Memphis would receive the same recommendation from the president a year from now and would be asked to move forward with the music building as their #1 priority. In essence, failure to substitute this year delays the inevitable for a year and puts at risk potentially match money that is currently in place. The compensating for that, there is we believe, a risk to the system. The music center is a larger project. As you note on the screen, it's about an $8 million larger project in total than the biochemistry building. Approving the substitution puts, to some degree or other, at-risk projects that are below the biochemistry building on the list. To mitigate that risk, we believe the board should consider modifying the state funding request to only request state funding for the music center that is 10% greater than that which would have been recommended for the biochemistry building. That increases the state funding ask by about $2.6 million, but in essence it asks the University of Memphis to move the project forward to raise an additional $4 million in private match in order to move the project forward. That's $4 million over and above the funding that they currently have in hand in terms of their match. Mr. Chairman, that comes to you as a recommendation from myself as Vice Chancellor of Business and Finance in looking at this after conversation with the Chancellor and with President Rudd. With that, I'll be glad to stand for any questions on this matter before we turn to the match fund report.
Okay. Are there any questions regarding the proposed substitution? Hearing none, please continue.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And members, the match fund report, and again, I apologize to the folks in the audience, this is an eye test for you. These are the projects that are being recommended as part of the staff's capital outlay recommendations. What we are asked to do when these projects come before you is to solicit from the institutions information on how they intend to meet their match requirement. It won't run down through all the numbers with you, but suffice it to say that every institution is working toward pulling their match together. In the majority of cases, what we see is a pretty substantial contribution or a plan to raise private funds for these. In total, when you look at the list of $294 million in total projects, about of the match of $38 million that's required, 75% is planned to come from private sources, with 25% coming from institutional sources of funds. And historically, my apologies to the board for this part. Historically, you would have also received a report at this point in time about our history with match for projects that had been authorized and moved forward in the past. Time got away from us, and you have our commitment that we'll present a fuller report on all match fund projects, both past and present, at your December meeting. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd stand for questions. The matching fund report is presented to you for information only, does not require action, but the capital budget request and action, if you choose to take it, with the University of Memphis substitution is before you, I believe requiring a roll call vote.
That is correct. And members of the committee, you have heard the recommendations of Mr. Dick Tracy as well as Vice Chancellor Sims regarding the University of Memphis project substitution request. Is there any further questions regarding it? Hearing none, I would enter.
Could I ask a procedural question?
Yes.
In the case of the substitution, and it won't really matter next year about Memphis because they won't be under our purview, but how would that be then? Would the biology or biochemistry building automatically come back on, or is there a process that says, okay, it was, you know, somebody, you wanted another building, so to me that says, okay, this building isn't what they need, and would it continue to appear on the list?
Yeah. Regent Smith, my view is that it comes off our list, that the music building is substituted for it. Now, keeping in mind, this time next year, a different board will be dealing with this, and that project could come back. But for purposes of our board, it would, if you agree to permit the substitution, it would come off our list totally.
Correct. Thank you. Excellent clarification. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion regarding the system's recommended capital outlay and maintenance program for fiscal year 2017-18.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I'll make that motion that we approve the capital outlay and maintenance program for fiscal year 2017-2018 with one modification, and that would be to substitute the University of Memphis Music Center project in place of the University of Memphis Biochemistry and Biology facility.
That is a proper motion. Is there a second? Second by Regent Smith. Any discussion? Hearing none, this matter requires a roll call vote. Madam Secretary, would you call the roll?
Regent Duckett?
Aye.
Regent Freeman? Aye. Regent Griscom?
Aye.
Regent Roddy? Aye. Regent Russell? Aye. Regent Smith? Aye. Regent Thomas?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a report regarding system budget requests to be submitted to the Tennessee Higher Education Commission, and I would call on Vice Chancellor Sims to.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members. Again, the one slide here summarizes several pages within your board materials that were previously distributed. Many of these items from members will look familiar. They are carryovers from the prior years, particularly items 4 through 9 are essentially items that you had seen and acted on favorably last year. The items that I would like to highlight for you are the first three. Tomorrow you will be receiving as part of your board meeting a report from the Security Task Force that was created earlier this year. Our sense is that that report will probably carry some idea of physical challenges that institutions have in at least outlining in some respects a potential ask of state government in terms of funding. Our sense is that should that come forward, that should be the system's number one request to the state government through THAC. Since we are unaware at this point in time of exactly what that might be, your materials, should you act favorably on this, would authorize the Chancellor in consultation with the Chair of the Finance Committee and the Vice Chair of the Board to develop a specific request for consideration by THAC. So in essence, that first item you would be delegating to the Chair of the Committee and the Vice Chair of the Board, working with the Chancellor to develop that request to state government. The second item, the marketing plan, you'll recall several years ago the Board agreed to increase by, I believe it was maybe 0.2% or 0.5% the tuition increase at community colleges in order to create a funding source to deploy a marketing plan for the colleges. This is a request in part to allow you to roll that back and substitute with state dollars those dollars that we're currently collecting from students in order to market the colleges. In addition to that, we've expanded that request this year by $1 million to also include marketing for the TCATs, so we can look within a focused system. We can look at a consolidated marketing approach between both of those sectors. The third item, Mr. Chair and members, relates to IT. Some of you may be aware that the TCATs are moving toward a implementation of a new student information and student financial aid system targeted for July of 2018. That will require some examination, and we're confident improvement in their IT area. They'll essentially be bringing up an instance of Banner, or the system that we use with other institutions in order to support those functions. This request, which is a combination of recurring and non-recurring dollars, would allow us to ensure that we have the right technology in place at TCATS, as well as on a recurring basis that we have appropriate bandwidth to be able to support that effort in an acceptable fashion. Mr. Chair, with that brief description, I'd be glad to try to respond to any questions members might have. Maybe procedurally letting you know, to the degree that this committee is favorably disposed for these items, to the whole list or any of this, if the board concurs in that recommendation tomorrow, this is forwarded to the Higher Education Commission. They then make an independent judgment as to what, if any, of these items to forward to the administration, and then the administration makes a decision as to whether to include those in the state budget. So this is the beginning of a relatively long road for each of these items.
Mr. Chairman, ask you a question.
Yes.
On the marketing part, Dale, I'm glad to hear that the TCAP piece is being built in, but let me ask, are you also thinking about, since we are becoming a new system, that there's also at least in here at least some thinking of marketing what TBR is, in addition to our component parts, community colleges and TCAT, so that people understand when they hear TBR going forward, that they have a much better understanding of our new mission, which is going to be much more workforce development focused and things like that. So I'm just asking, is that sort of considered in here, so there's also at least some segment that helps people understand over a period of time the new role, the new focus, the new definition of TBR?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So it's a good comment. I would have to, in all honesty, I don't think we had that incorporated into this particular request, but we certainly will.
Could I ask a question too? This being 17-18, of course, to your point, we're going to look different in 17-18, and we have equipment for universities. How does that resolve itself? I mean, we're voting on something that's going to be different when this takes effect, are we not?
And you may see a little bit of, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
yeah, thank you. And you may see a little bit of this in the security request tomorrow. Our thought, Regent Smith, is that the university system is part of our system we're in a little bit of an odd spot for now, okay? And so I feel like that including these requests is essential for sort of a smooth continuation as they stand up their own boards. You will see tomorrow some recommendations around improvements in security that include universities, and I feel like it's prudent on our part to go ahead and make those recommendations. They have been integrally involved in the creation of those, and I just think to keep things moving on the right path, including them in this recommendation is the right thing to do. I would agree with you, it's a little bit of an odd spot we find ourselves in for this 1 year.
And plus, the universities don't have another governance structure in place right now to make these decisions.
That's correct.
They're still under this governance structure. And so we can't punt the ball down the field, if you will. We got to make the decisions right now. And then when they stand up their boards, then they can decide if our decisions that we made were the ones that were appropriate for them.
Right, right, and if you polled each one, there might be something a little bit different, but nothing that you see on this list is anything that is particularly new to them. It's the things that they have been interested in as well. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. We've heard the recommendations from Vice Chancellor Sims as it relates to the report regarding system budget request to be submitted to the Tennessee Higher Education Commission. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? This item requires a voice vote. All in favor signify by aye. Opposed is no. Item is approved. Thank you. Before you leave, Vice Chancellor Sims, while that's the last published item on our agenda, we need to discuss an issue that has been brought up before the board, in the committee before, as it relates to university foundation agreements, in which you update the committee on the latest status of that.
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to this kerfuffle that we've created somewhat.
We've gone from marinade to kerfuffle.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, there was $5 involved in that. I just need to disclose. You'll probably recall that with the passage of the Complete College Act, that shortly after it passed, within a few years, the Comptroller's Office did a performance review of implementation of the CCTA. One of the findings or observations they had with regard to TBR was that our foundation agreements were outdated, did not include language that had been recommended, suggested by the General Counsel's Office. Subsequent to that, we engaged in a conversation with the institutions to develop an updated foundation policy, and then subsequent to that, adoption of a model agreement. That was presented to this board September of last year and approved by the board with language, with a direction that all institutions were to pursue execution of the updated agreement with their foundations by September of this year, by this month. Then we had an intervening event, the Focus Act. Questions been raised by at least several of the universities that in the not too distant future they'll have a separate board, that they will be working through policies of their own with regard to foundations, and that the request was, is it necessary for them to work through that process with their foundation, execute a new agreement now, with the knowledge that that in all likelihood would occur again later in 2017. During our discussion, I think it was during the audit committee meeting, we were asked, given that the board had set a September 2016 date and that the Comptroller's Office through his audit staff was involved, not in setting that specific date, but in identifying the issue, would delaying that or waiving that requirement on behalf of universities present an audit issue. We have been in communication with the director of the Division of State Audit, the relevant group within the Comptroller's Office, and their advice to us is that as they understand under the circumstances with a unique intervening event, that waiving that deadline for universities would not be problematic for them. So, Mr. Chair, if appropriate, our recommendation would be, since the board had set the 2016 September deadline for execution of those agreements, that you authorize the chancellor to waive that for any university that sees fit or sees that they would like to have that, that extra time or have that requirement waived.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chancellor Sims. You've heard the recommendation from Vice Chancellor Sims regarding authorizing the Chancellor to waive that deadline. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll move it.
Moved by Regent Griscom. Is there a second? Second by Regent Thomas. Questions?
Yeah, let me just, since, as chairman of the audit committee, I appreciate you, Dale, looking into this, because we did talk about it, and appreciate the answer back that you've shared, because I think for us, it's important anytime the comptroller's office looks at what we're doing, and particularly looks at how the audit committee is functioning, that they know that we are looking at these kind of topics, that we talk about them. And so I appreciate, this clarification, because I think then they, they know that as a board, that we're asking the right questions, trying to make sure that we're in compliance. And so I just want to thank you for that, and I'm glad to have made the motion to support it.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, based on the response I received, I believe that they appreciate the sensitivity the board had to this situation and the appreciated that the question was asked. Thank you. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by aye. Aye. Opposes no. Item is approved. Does any other member have any other business to come before the committee? If not, without objection, the committee is adjourned, and I turn it over to our vice chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well done. Well done. Just a couple of closing comments, if I may. And everybody's done a good bit of work this afternoon, and we've had some tremendous reports. Sarah, I just want to say to you, carry back to Molly as the Skills USA president for our state, and to all of your colleagues, well done. Are you packed to go to DC?
No, not yet.
Have you been there before?
Not in this capacity. I've gone a couple of times, and
Okay.
it's a really fun city to visit.
It is. It's going to be excellent. So, well, we need to let you get home and get packed. So, indeed. I also wanted to add, and I did not realize this, I asked James when I put on my Skills USA pin, and Tennessee is named as the birthplace of Skills USA on this great pin that our student won an award in the competition. Apparently, Skills USA was birthed, if you will, in meetings between the Hermitage Hotel in Nashville and TPAC, the Tennessee Performing Arts Center. And somewhere in the Performing Arts Center, there is actually a plaque that signifies such. So we learn something new every day. So this is more historic than we even realized, so which is kind of fun. Sarah, the other thing I want to tell you is thank you for the medal. I think I sat on this board for 5 years before I got one of these. So this is very important.
Madam Chairman, my first as well. Thank you.
Okay, all right, very good, very good. So thank you, and best of everything to you and your colleagues on this trip. We'll look forward to hearing more. Please also thank Mr. Mercer for us. You told me he had to go, today was his day to pick up his children at school. So he stayed with us as long as he could, and just as you did, offered very valuable perspectives. So please thank him for us as well. Austin, you have been a tremendous participant today, and we thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to thank everyone here on the board for allowing me to come and sit in on this opportunity.
Thank you. Any observations, takeaways, anything you need us to be doing?
I don't think I have anything. Thank you.
Okay. No, stay busy.
Yes, ma'am.
We'll look forward to having you at MTSU.
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe one of these days we'll see you on the news, right?
That's what I'm shooting for.
Excellent, excellent. You'll be great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. And Dr. Harris, what a pleasure it has been to have you with us today. I just wanted to reflect for a second. Last night at the Maxine Smith Fellows Dinner, your colleague, Dr. Hollins, made the observation that there were 4 words that kept coming up in the course of your time together over the course of the Fellows program, and that was diversity, transformation, empower or empowerment, and inspire or inspiration. You all remind us of how important all 4 of those things are, and you make us very proud, so we thank you. Keep up the good work.
And thank you. And if it would be okay, could I ask my cohort to stand?
Yes,
Please,
indeed.
if there are
Our
Maxine Smith
fellows
fellows here, would they please stand?
Yes, here, here. No, And we know you made your presentations yesterday. I guess your papers will be completed, and we've had a request, and Regent Griscom made a wise request. We would love to see those papers because so much of the work you all have done this year are around the promise, around the Focus Act transition. There are lessons in that for us as board members, so we'll look forward to receiving that information.
And I know Wendy, Dr. Thompson,
Yep.
and Deanna said that we could forward them, and you could also be able to access them via the website. So,
Okay,
thank you.
excellent. Thank you so
Yes.
much. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much. To our regents, you will have tonight your committee reports back at the desk when you return from dinner. They'll also be available on our TBR app here in a little bit. But look over those in preparation for tomorrow's meeting. We will have breakfast back on this great campus where we had lunch today in the Health Science Center starting at 7:30 tomorrow morning. At 9 o'clock, Dr. Tidings will fill us in a little bit on all the exciting things happening here at Chattanooga State. And then we will convene in this location, of course, at 9:30. Chancellor or Dr. Tidings, any further announcements?
Understand the dinner for tonight is kerfuffles.
Oh.
Marinated.
Marinated in wine. No comments, Madam Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Oh, yes, Austin, sorry.
I just wanted to announce to everyone really quick, tomorrow, the Student Government Association will be sponsoring a Constitution Day event here on campus.
Oh, good.
So if you guys are free anytime tomorrow after lunch, if you just wanted to stop by, we're doing voter registration drives. We've got big events and games planned. And so far on campus, we've had 103 people register to vote so far this year.
That's great.
So it's what we're pushing for.
Hear, hear. Well done. That's great. Anything else for the good of the cause? Dr. Tidings, there she is.
Well, I do again just want to formally welcome each of you to campus and to remind everyone of the dinner tonight. And it does begin with the reception at 5:30 at the Waterhouse Pavilion. Dinner will be at 6. So we look forward to socializing with everyone there this evening.
Thank you very much. We will look forward to it as well. If there's no other business to come before the board and no objections, we stand adjourned. Thank you for a great afternoon.